for those galaxy gals in peril from bug-eyed aliens.
I remember the 1950s, I was like looking at a bunch of magazines and there was a half-naked woman on the cover. That would certainly be a reason for me to pick it up.
And now that you're all grown up, you might be wondering, how did the real world get as weird as the world of science fiction?
Prior to Frankenstein, there were no stories of a scientist working in a laboratory. That was created 100% by Mary Shelley. The fantastic things that happened in literature prior to Frankenstein were the result of magicians, religious people, people who were half gods, as in the ancient Greeks. So Mary Shelley's Frankenstein got the ball rolling on that kind of approach.
She also got the ball rolling on one of the great themes of science fiction, the idea of man pushing too far into God's domain.
He takes it upon himself to do godlike things, and so the gods punish him. And the great ineffability of the cosmos always leaves open this possibility that somehow if we push too far, if we push the edge too strongly, if we're too arrogant about what we do, then the cosmos may come back and bite us or undo it. The 19th century was very different than the 20th century. There was almost an inherent belief in progress, that through application of human rationality, through inventions, through science, we, the human species, could really improve our lot, improve the lot of our planet, even improve, in some sense, the lot of the cosmos itself. His science fiction is classic. Isn't this an exciting new toy? And, what would happen if we use these toys? And, his stories are enjoyable enough, but there's very little connection to, well, how is this going to revolutionize society socially? The time travel story, the time machine, is really a social parable. The Morlocks underneath the earth, basically, are the workers who are so angry they have enslaved the former aristocracy, who now just almost become like beautiful grazing animals that the Morlocks eat. In the 19th century, they were called scientific romances, which actually is not because there was much romance in them, but it was rather that the word romance in those days had an older meaning, which meant novel. Hugo Gernsback looked around him and, he saw electricity doing things that had never been done before, people riding trains across continents at very fast speeds, airplanes, and he instantly understood that there were stories involved in these things. I remember in the 1950s, if I was like looking at a bunch of magazines and there was a half-naked woman on the cover, that would certainly be a reason for me to pick it up.
Legend has it that for help he turned to France's premier filmmaking duo, the Lumiere brothers.
And he said, I'd like to rent one of your cameras. And they said no, because they didn't want the competition. So according to this story, Méliès bribed the night watchman at the Lumiere brothers' film works factory, and thereby procured a camera. And you see the man in the moon's face, and the rocket hits him right in the eye, and the guy goes, ouch. That was typical of Méliès's sense of humor, and part of this was as a magician, his goal was always to amaze and entertain people and make them laugh and make them sigh. So for Georges Méliès, there really wasn't a distinction between comedies and serious movies that we have today. On the one hand, the good guys won World War II, but the victory came at a pretty awful price, namely the atom bomb.
Like the War of the Worlds broadcast, the bomb was another alarm bell for cultural change. Sci-fi had emerged as a mainstream force, and science fiction and real science were now permanent dance partners. The bomb would become one of the most dominant themes of the next decade, providing some of the most profound and profoundly silly moments in the history of science fiction.
The theme of Fahrenheit 451, that each person memorizes a book and becomes a sort of a living book, is a wonderful, even a beautiful theme. The story is pretty simple, it's pretty obvious. You just sit back and you're frightened. And, if you're a guy, it's fun to take a girl to one of those movies. Maybe she'll get really frightened and cuddle up to you. That's good. A neuromancer is William Gibson's most important novel. It's his breakthrough novel. The first sentence of the book is about as good as the first sentence gets in a novel.
The sky above the port, Gibson wrote, was the color of television tuned to a dead channel.
This idea that you look up at the sky and it looks like a flickering, sickly television screen, that captures it right there, that the whole world is a television screen or an informational medium.
Gibson coined the word cyberspace for Neuromancer. While some would tout cyberspace as an information wonderland, Gibson saw it as a wasteland. The novel created a hard-boiled technophobic style called cyberpunk, which owed much of its rebel spirit to the political climate of the 80s as it did to technology. Soon, a new breed of bioscience novels were on the shelves. Paul Levinson's Silk Code, about an ancient biotech war raging on in secret for centuries.
We're going to continue to see physics at the cutting edge, but I think the 21st century is going to be the century of biology, and I think the science fiction will shine its flashlights into that future, just as it has throughout the past 150 years.